So I'm delighted to say that we're now going to hear from Katie Costello, who's the Senior Advisor for Media Literacy at the Alana and Madeline Foundation. Now, she also manages the eSmart Media Literacy Lab initiative. And for over 12 years, Katie has led major education-based projects and programs in Australia and in the UK for government, media and not-for-profit organisations. She has a passion for media literacy and digital inclusion, and that's bolstered by great partnerships with industry experts and being part of the Alana and Madeline Foundation efforts to safeguard our children's futures. We work a lot with the Alana and Madeline Foundation, and I have to say they're a wonderful organisation. So thank you. Over to you, Katie.
Thank you, very much so, and it's a pleasure to join everyone today. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm delivering this presentation, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging. The Alana and Madeline Foundation formally endorses the Uluru Statement from the Heart, and we call on all Australians to support a constitutionally enshrined First Nations voice to Parliament. For more than 20 years, the Alana and Madeline Foundations has worked with across Australia to safeguard every child's basic right to live free from violence and bullying. Now, recognising the dangers children face today that are increasingly complex, we continue to adapt and respond. Today, I'd like to provide you with some tips to engage local communities in media literacy learning using our new eSmart resource, Media Literacy Lab. The lab complements the eSmart Library's Cyber Safety Initiative, which is in over 80% of public libraries across Australia. We originally designed the lab for secondary schools, but we encourage other educational settings and interested non-school guests to explore and use its wealth of valuable features with thanks to a $1.4 million investment from google.org. It is also free and open to access until the 31st of January 2021. So this slide's contents may look familiar for those of you that have been joining us since this morning. We support and adopt the Australian Media Literacy Alliance definition of media literacy, which you can see in purple here. And we also have created Media Literacy Lab to address the key concepts and learning outcomes outlined in their national framework for media literacy. In an increasingly fraught and politicized, polarized political climate, that is, there is increasing demands also for long periods of screen time and a youth population that are becoming increasingly socially isolated during the pandemic. So the stakes for media literacy education have never been higher. I won't go into the previous research that Tanya and Michael already have mentioned, but that's very much provided an evidence base for the development of Media Literacy Lab. We believe that without media literacy education, young people are more susceptible to online harms such as disinformation and online hate speech. And with the risk of only 1 in 5 Australians having received news media literacy lessons from the research that Tanya quoted, we really believe this needs to be addressed and that Media Literacy Lab can form part of that solution. With increased media literacy knowledge and skills, it also fosters positive digital civic engagement. So, what is the lab and why use it? It's a highly engaging education resource for young people aged 12 to 16, equipping them with the skills they need to effectively navigate and critique today's fast-paced digital ecosystem and society. It's uniquely gamified, youth-driven and expert-designed, contemporary and carefully curated. It was validated in early development with young people, testing character design and the narratives within the lab to ensure that they're reflective of the diverse backgrounds and societal experiences of many young Australians. The lab also complements a range of our eSmart initiatives, especially helping students recognise and respond to the challenges that sometimes media presents. The Foundation has an ongoing partnership with Google Australia, Tumus and Learnosity, which among the many advantages helps us ensure that the resource stays at the leading edge of digital innovation. It's an evidence-based and delivers learning content responsive to emerging media youth issues. So briefly how we got here. In December 2018, we were awarded the grant to develop a media literacy program for Australian secondary school students. By September 2019, we were proudly invited to attend the first Global Media Literacy Summit held by Google in London, where organisations from 32 countries convened to discuss solutions, find common ground and share best practices around media literacy. In November 2019, we convened a content development day at Google HQ in Sydney, and it involved many of our media literacy advisory group members, including experts from Museum of Australian Democracy, Queensland University of Technology, University of Melbourne Graduate School of Education, Private Media, Crinkling News, and St Stephen's College, Brisbane. The MLAG includes many media industry experts and organisations, academics, and it continues to be an extremely valuable source of high-level advice. We're proud to have them as partners, and they are supporting the foundation pilot implementation of Media Literacy Lab, help give advice on product improvements, impact evaluation, and other opportunities that we can share this fantastic resource. We're also proud to feature valuable learning content in the Media Literacy Lab from our partners, including that of MOAD and ABC Education. So by January 2020, we had procured leading multinational edutech companies, Two Moves and Learnosity, who I'd already mentioned, and they were procured to co-design and develop Media Literacy Lab collaboratively with the Foundation and MLAG experts. Sorry, MLAG is short for the Media Literacy Advisory Group. We're full of acronyms, as most people are these days. In July 2020, the lab was finally launched and announced. We're very proud that it was announced by the Federal Minister for Communications, Cyber Safety and the Arts, Paul Fletcher MP, our CEO, Leslie Podesta, and Google Australia's Sam York, who you will be seeing shortly, hopefully. So inside the Media Literacy Lab, teachers can facilitate sessions that present differentiated tasks, source examination, and peer-to-peer team and whole class discussions, continually exercising students' critical thinking, problem-solving skills, and ethical understanding. So it has currently 6 modules, including what is media, my relationship with media, information disorder, which includes the commonly used term fake news, but we also adopt the many different layers associated with fake news from first draft, and we describe it as information disorder. Filter bubbles, algorithms, AI, and big data, that's really looking at the bots and the many different ways that we see and consume the media. Then module 5 is media and democracy, which I'll shortly give you a little tour of, and hate is going to hate, it's about hate speech. At present, there are 24 teaching and learning sessions to deliver, and they're all aligned to the Australian curriculum across the many different learning areas and general capabilities that has already been discussed. The modules include individual and group activities, and what I'm going to do is show you a short clip now of an introductory video to one of the module sessions, and that's from What is Media for Year 7.
Hey, when you hear the word media, what do you think of?
Newspapers, television, advertisements, social media.
Correct. You see, the word media describes the many different ways that we communicate in society.
So even a text message?
Yep.
Or the news on television or YouTube?
You've got it! Even ancient cave paintings are an early example of media. But today, the internet and devices we rely on daily give us access to more information in one day than people used to receive in a year.
Sure, but how much of that is important or even real? How do we know what is credible and reliable?
Alright, time to elaborate. There is the news media, which includes the mass communication of news delivered to the public through many different channels. It's produced by organisations who employ journalists, photographers and editors to cover and produce news stories that they think the public needs to know about. The news media is a business of storytelling to inform us, the public. They operate under editorial processes, ensuring that the stories they produce are accurate, fair and of high quality, unlike some of the other media sources floating around on the internet.
Ah, I see. So while we're saturated by this stuff, we need to identify where to find credible news sources amongst the blogs, advertisements, clickbait, fake news, and endless information on the internet.
Exactly, which is why we have the Media Literacy Lab.
Katie, sorry, you're on mute.
Apologies. What I'm showing you now is really a simple step on how to register, going to medialiteracy.org.au. And it's important, this is just the home screen for the main website. So you can see in the top, there is the register button that you click on, and then you can return to login once you've verified your email address. Now, on very rare occasions, the verification email goes to junk or spam, so please do check there. We're working to try and make sure that doesn't happen at all, but we have had a couple of cases. So. Do take time to explore this website, the public-facing website. It's got some fantastic information on about the resource. It's got our introductory promotional video, and it's also got the launch video that included our main speakers that I mentioned earlier. We've also got the bios from many of the experts that I've also been discussed and those that you have seen today. So now I'm going to give you an overview of the teacher portal, which can also be used by librarians. Apologies again for the terminology. It is originally designed for schools, but we really do encourage all information professionals to engage with this, and there is lots of downloadable content that I'm about to show you that you can use and adapt. So what you do is you log in. You put in your details and it'll prompt you to generate a session. So there are two different sections in Media Literacy Lab Teacher Portal. There's the sessions where you basically set up and get ready to facilitate a module that's delivered to students, or there's resources, which is all of the complementary information and materials that help you do that. If you're not ready to set up a team straight away, you can go directly to the resources section. And you can do that via clicking the teacher support that just occurred then, or you can navigate to the top tab where it says resources. So it's divided into modules, guidance, module overview, and provocations to help you consider different ways that you can adapt the lab to your pedagogic preferences. And that's just a quick demonstration that you can preview your session before you actually deliver it, which is a really good idea. We believe that getting the most out of the Media Literacy Lab is to start by experimenting, and it'll help you get used to the design and think about how you would like to deliver the lab in whatever space that may be. These are some of the resources that you can download from the Teacher Portal resources section. It includes an Australian curriculum alignment document, which makes links to the broad disciplines, classes and subdivisions which are learning areas and general capabilities within the curriculum that the lab is aligned with. There is also the teacher guide, which provides really practical advice on getting started and what you need to do to set up in a blended learning environment and a remote learning environment. Infographics are embedded within the module sessions, and they've got terminology and examples that students can appraise and contextualize for their own environments. And then these are some of the digital assets that you can download in the Teacher Portal resources section again. They can be used by students in their own media production activities, and also by teachers or facilitators to integrate into their own lesson presentations, displays, or communications with students. So here's an example of a Year 8 module that I created earlier. What you do is you click on the session and you share the URL with the students, then they navigate to that and you ask them to please enter their real name so you can actually see their responses when you return to the Teacher Portal. And now you'll see how the students are introduced to the Media Literacy Lab, or the MLL, a club at Sapien High which focuses on looking into media and getting to the bottom of its intent. Learners help solve various age-appropriate problems with the characters, with the main characters, Steve, Kate, and Pop. This is the intro session that you can see that sets the scene, and the immersive narrative structure gives students agency to critically think and problem solve in a safe environment. There are fictional and real life issues explored throughout the team section, which is where we are now. And that is where the team section is the central learning content. It's where students examine, comprehend, and discuss the absolute connections between their own media practices and digital civic engagement. In every session, students will occasionally meet multiple choice questions designed to progress the narrative, but predominantly they'll engage in a diverse range of question types which provoke that deep critical thinking and will help for teachers and facilitators capture their developing capability and understanding of media literacy concepts. The questions have, for example, involve audio recording, uploading student created media, short essays, fill in the blanks, hotspots, close association, choice matrices, and classification tasks. You can also see that there's a pop-down resources tablet that mimics a tablet device, and it provides some fantastic fictional media, sometimes social media, sometimes podcasts, that students engage with to help solve the problem that is the MLL Club are trying to resolve. So once the team section is complete, the narrative is concluded in a finale where students help resolve the fictional problem, drawing on their learning from the team section. For the 5 modules, there can either be a positive or a soft negative outcome. We advise teachers that the students that see the negative outcome use it as an opportunity to scaffold student learning. If there are clearly misconceptions, you can encourage the student to try out a lower year level team which is de-identified for students. So they can't actually see if they're in a year 8 class that they're looking at year 7, although it's entirely up to you if you want to disclose that information. Then teachers or facilitators can revisit the teacher portal and simultaneously view student progress and completion rates and individual responses by clicking View Report in the Sessions section. So how might your library flexibly use and adapt the eSmart Media Literacy Lab for your own learning spaces and programs? On the screen, you can see some ideas on how you might use our resources and digital assets. Well, I've done this also noting that how incredibly well the libraries have adapted to the new pandemic settings and have very much moved to online delivery of programs and services, but also still continue to provide hard copy printed materials, which is a fantastic thing. So Media Maker activity packs for students, especially leading up to school holiday programs, and setting up displays or showing your catalogues and related artifacts is a great idea to film and share on socials. We touched on the infodemic earlier. I think recording local youth experiences of the infodemic is a great opportunity to engage in media literacy. It's just one of the many ways, and some of you may already be doing this, as one of the many ways that you can get the public talking, your local community talking about media literacy. Then you can also deliver Media Literacy Lab sessions yourself. You can set it up and share it to be delivered live over the internet, or you can do it in a COVID-safe blended learning environment using computers or one-on-one devices. Complementing our forthcoming series of Australia-wide professional development events, aiming to increase the capacity and confidence of secondary school educators, we hope to help libraries increase the capacity of parents and carers to foster media literacy in teens who are in their care. We're aiming to focus, subject to funding, on the most vulnerable populations in low Australian digital inclusion index areas. We're also hoping to offer an exclusive Media Literacy Lab podcast production workshop to young people during Media Literacy Week, inviting teams from local community groups, and we're working with another not-for-profit to help plan this and make this happen. We'll be sharing more information about this via our AMF and eSmart communication channels. And then finally, a quick plug for National eSmart Week, which starts this Sunday. Please visit and register. That's a link that you can find. That we provide a free ebook. It's completely new, created very much for online delivery or blended delivery, hybrid models. And we're very fortunate to be able to offer a free webinar from Dr. Michael Greg, apologies to Michael for spelling that incorrectly. And we can also download digital assets for you to use and promote to promote your participation. So we would love to hear about your experiences delivering Media Literacy Lab, using its resources or assets, or any feedback at all on how we might further support libraries with Media Literacy Lab. Please contact us on the email or the phone number provided on the screen, and do register today at medialiteracy.org.au. Thank you.
Katie, thank you so much. That was a terrific, speedy run around the Media Literacy Lab. I just want to clarify, just to check, it's free until the 31st of January.
That's correct, until, yes, the end of January 2021.
Great, thank you. And we're going to support eSmart Week through ALIA, so all good for that.
Thank you.
The questions that have come up, we've only got a couple of minutes. There's a question about whether there's research to support the efforts by Media Literacy Lab. I'm going to guess that you're more into an evaluation at this point rather than having research which proves that it works.
Absolutely, yes, we're very much piloting the resource. It was developed and very much underpinned by the research that Tanya Notley and Michael Deswani and partners have worked on. And we, as part of our next iteration, the pilot process, we're undertaking an evaluation to measure its effectiveness. We have a fantastic system that sits behind Media Literacy Lab that helps us also analyse its use in an aggregated level. So we can also modify questions and content to make sure that it's appropriate. So if something is not really hitting the mark, we can at that level make adjustments until we have some more concrete evidence of impact.
Lovely, thank you, Katie. And the other question, which I hope again is fairly straightforward, there's somebody on the conference who would like to use this model for 18 to 25-year-olds, uni students.
Yeah.
Are there any bits of this you could adapt?
Absolutely. Look, the Year 10 content has a degree of complexity that would be suitable for entry-level university students and post-18. We've had a lot of requests for other school age, like for primary and post-secondary. So, you know, subject to funding, we would absolutely love to develop modules and more materials for a broader age range. And if that person wants to get in touch, I would be really happy to provide some more specific advice around how they might be able to tailor Media Literacy Lab and maybe point in them in direction of our partners and other resources that could support.
Wonderful, thank you, Katie. And of course, everything that AMF does has to be funded in some way. So that's why there are limitations on what can be offered. Absolutely.
We like many other non-profits at the moment, we are still continuing to doing really hard work to achieve our goals, and yes, we still require funding to do the best job that we can. So yeah.
Thank you. Well, Katie, that was absolutely great. The only other question that we had in this session related to the draft news bargaining code and Google's involvement in that. I'm actually going to park that question because it's not something that probably Katie or I would be able to answer. And I don't particularly want to put it to Sam York because I don't want to put her on the spot about something which is a highly political matter at a time when we really want to focus at this conference on media literacy. So I hope the person who asked the question doesn't feel I'm ducking it, because really we're not. And if we want to pick that up outside the meeting, very happy to do so.